Okay, let's dive in. We've got some really powerful source material in front of us today. It's excerpts from Trevor Noah's memoir, Born a Crime.
And that title, I mean, it grabs you right away, doesn't
It
it?
really does.
It just forces you to confront the reality he was born into, where his very existence, being mixed race, well, that was literally a crime under apartheid South Africa.
Exactly. And this isn't just like a history lesson. It's a very personal window into South Africa during and right after apartheid, and is all through the eyes of someone navigating this really unique identity.
Yeah, an identity forged in conflict. The material you've shared, it gives such a rich picture of that experience. It moves from, the stark laws that defined his birth right through to the details of family, poverty, the struggle just to be.
Right. So our mission here for this deep dive is to really unpack the key insights, the fascinating details, and the moments that really resonate from the specific text you gave us. We want to explore what it all reveals about identity, resilience, and just the absurdity of that segregated world.
And just a reminder, this deep dive is custom made for you based purely on the material you provided.
Okay, so let's jump right into what the material presents first. That legal foundation for the title, Born a Crime. It mentions the Immorality Act of 1927. What does the source actually tell us about that law?
Well, the text lays it out pretty plainly. Its stated purpose was, and I'm quoting loosely here, to prohibit illicit carnal intercourse between Europeans and natives and other related acts.
Illicit carnal intercourse. Wow. The clinical language is almost as jarring as the idea itself, isn't it? Legally banning human connection based on race?
It was all about maintaining racial separation at the most basic level. And the penalties, the text mentions them, they were severe. Up to 5 years in prison for a European man with a native woman or vice versa, and 4 years for the one involved.
The details in the text about enforcement are, they're disturbing. It mentions police squads whose whole job was just going around peeking through windows.
Yeah. Imagine that, the state sticking its nose into the most private parts of life, all for this twisted ideology.
It just shows how far the state would go to enforce racial purity.
Absolutely. And what also comes through clearly in the text is how unevenly the law was applied. It points out, a white man with a black woman might get off lightly, maybe a slap on the wrist.
What, the other way around?
But a black man caught with a white woman, he'd be lucky not to face a rape charge, regardless of what actually happened.
That just screams power dynamics, doesn't it? It wasn't only about separation, it was about keeping white male dominance firmly in place. And this law, this is the backdrop for Trevor's birth. His parents' relationship was illegal, so he was, quite literally, born a crime.
And that legal fact, that reality, it shaped his whole understanding of who he was right from the start.
Which the material gets into next, showing his first experiences with race. Like, he didn't get the political side of it initially. He saw it more like chocolate.
Right, exactly. White chocolate, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, that was him. He talks about being called white in Soweto and being genuinely confused, thinking people, had their colors mixed up.
But even in Soweto, his lighter skin did make him stand out. The text says he was called the light-skinned boy, sometimes even used as a landmark.
Wow.
And occasionally got special treatment, like, can't let the white child stand outside. That must have been so confusing for a kid.
It set him apart, even inside his own community. That feeling of being an outsider early on.
Yeah.
It's key context for the shock he describes later at H.A. Jack Primary School.
The playground.
Yeah, the stark segregation on the playground, being forced to actually choose which group he belonged to.
And he chose the black kids, the B classes. There's that line in the text, rather be held back with people I liked. That says so much. What do you think that choice shows?
I think it shows the deep human need for belonging, maybe even more than perceived opportunity. He felt like he could finally just be with the black kids. He wasn't constantly aware of being different, Whereas with the white kids, the text says he felt like an outsider.
But that outsider feeling, it seems like it didn't totally disappear. Even later, at a more mixed high school, Sandringham, the text mentions he still didn't quite fit in. The colored kids apparently mocked him. The white kids had money, he didn't.
So yeah, the material says he ended up creating his own strange little world. It really highlights how deeply segregation messed with his ability to just connect and find his place.
And navigating that whole world, especially when he was young, was so tied up with his mom. The text calls their relationship a Tom and Jerry relationship.
That's a perfect description, isn't it? That push and pull, lots of conflict, but deep, deep affection, too. The stories in the material are great, like him kicking off his shoes when she was chasing him, trying to slow her down.
Right. Or her tactic of pretending not to know him at the shop so she wouldn't have to buy him a toffee apple. Clever.
Very clever. In the letters, using Bible quotes for discipline, like Proverbs 22.15 about foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. It shows this unique, almost intellectual way of parenting, even when she was mad.
She didn't just lay down the law. She engaged his mind. The text really emphasizes her style, talking to him like an adult, telling stories, Bible lessons, especially Psalms, but not just memorizing. She made him think about the meaning, how to apply it, basically teaching him how to think.
Yeah, she even had her own takes, like on Narnia.
Oh.
Seeing Aslan not just as a Christ figure, but potentially a false idol if it distracted from learning about God directly. That's pretty unique.
Her own background, which the material hints at in snippets, sounds incredibly tough. Unwanted middle child, sent off to the Transguy homeland, a hut with 14 cousins, barely any services, running away, facing dangers. It clearly forged this amazing resilience in her.
Absolutely, and that resilience ties into her idea of the black tax. The text explains it as how past theft and oppression means black families now have to use their resources just to bring everyone behind you back up to zero.
What does that concept really tell us about the legacy of apartheid?
It's a powerful way to understand systemic disadvantage, you know? It means you're not starting equal. You're always playing catch up, trying to make up for wealth and opportunity that was stolen or denied generations ago. It's like a tax just for being black in that society.
And her philosophy on hardship is just so striking. Learn from your past. Don't cry about your past. Let the pain sharpen you, but don't hold on to it. Don't be bitter. And the text shows she really lived that way. It wasn't just talk.
That strength was so important, especially when Abel came into their lives. He sort of appeared because their old Volkswagen broke down.
Ah, the Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And the text says that needing the car fixed was kind of indirectly why she ended up marrying Abel, the mechanic who fixed it.
Right. And then they moved into that garage, the workshop. Living there sounds just awful based on the description. Cold concrete, smell of oil, junk cars everywhere, just a janitor's sink.
It really drives home the extreme poverty.
Yeah.
And that detail about eating Morago with mopane worms,
Yeah.
that moment in the text where he realizes, wait, I'm eating worms, and the description of them, spiny bodies, excrement.
Yeah.
It makes the deprivation so visceral.
It's one of those details that really sticks with you, shows the harsh reality of just getting by. And alongside the poverty, there was Abel's behavior, which the material describes as abusive, hitting his mother, the drinking, even things like, well, pissing on the floor when drunk.
And his mother's reaction, telling Trevor to pray for Abel because he hates himself. What does the text suggest about her view there? It's complex.
It shows this deep, maybe confusing for a kid, empathy, even for the person harming her. It sort of frames Abel's abuse not just as evil, but coming from his own pain, maybe a cycle of damage, you know?
The material also mentions she eventually divorced Abel legally, not just traditionally, specifically to protect her finances from his debts.
Yeah, another sign of her pragmatism. Always trying to protect what little they had, secure the future for her kids.
That constant need for money, for survival, it also pushed Trevor towards hustling, starting with pirating CDs. There's that line where he questions the morality. If copying CDs is wrong, why make CD writers?
Huh. Yeah, it shows him grappling with the world's contradictions. And he apparently built quite the little business from that garage, used a CD writer from his friend Andrew, old car speakers, downloaded music on super slow modems, even mixed tracks with a BPM program, selling hip-hop, R&B.
And that money, it gave him a taste of freedom, didn't it? The text mentions his obsession with McDonald's, which was apparently a huge cultural moment when it first opened in South Africa.
Yeah, simple things like McDonald's, or remember that huge cordless phone? They became symbols of escape, of having choices beyond basic survival.
His gap year hustling also meant a lot of time in Alexandra, the hood. The text describes the atmosphere there, the electricity, the constant human activity.
And that's where he really learned about the fine line between civilian and criminal, where gangsters were just your neighbors, you know, little Jimmy's selling crack now. Crime wasn't some abstract thing. It was part of daily life.
He figured out how to work the informal economy, using cash to get deals, like buying stolen stuff cheap from a crackhead, then selling it on credit to someone with a job, making a profit. Shows his hustle, but also the moral gray areas of survival there.
And the material shares a really powerful moment, a turning point in how he saw crime.
Right.
He contrasts stealing, say, cornflakes, where you don't really see the victim,
Right.
with stealing a camera.
That moment is really profound in the text. He says stealing the camera felt different because he saw the face of the victim. He understood he wasn't just taking an object, he was stealing memories, part of someone's life.
And he connects that realization directly to how the hood itself is set up, designed to keep victims out of sight, out of mind, so people don't have to face the human cost of their actions. That separation makes crime easier. It's a really crucial insight from the source about how segregation and poverty dehumanize.
Okay, shifting gears a bit from the harshness of the hood. The material also gives us these glimpses into his, well, incredibly awkward romantic life.
Oh, yeah.
Highlighting how little he understood about relationships early on, despite his mom trying to teach him.
That Valentine's Day story at HHAC, it's almost painful to read again. The whole love bureaucracy with friends asking Maylene for him, getting told she liked him, only for her to ditch him for Lorenzo, who, as the text hilariously puts it, traded intelligence points for beauty points.
Ouch. Pure childhood humiliation right there. And the Matrix dance story might be even worse.
Definitely. Begging for the BMW instead of that awful Mazda, the car breaking down in the parking lot, drinking brandy to cope. The whole thing.
But the big twist, revealed in the material, is that Babiki, his date, didn't even speak English.
Right. He was so awkward relying on friends to talk for him that he completely missed this massive communication gap. He compares it to looking at naked women online, like he didn't need to actually talk to her.
That silent, awkward drive home in the Mazda, and then the confusing kiss at the end. His conclusion, I have no idea how girls work, feels kind of universal, but also really highlights his unique social isolation.
These moments of awkwardness, trying to figure things out socially, they happen against the backdrop of the material's account of that final, terrible act of violence against his mother.
The story of her shooting, recounted by Andrew in the text. Abel waiting for her, shooting her in the leg and then in the head. It's chilling.
The text describes Trevor's reaction when he heard. He broke in two, crying like I had never cried before, just raw pain. You feel the devastation.
And that incredibly difficult moment in the hospital with the nurse talking about the cost of treatment. Millions. The source describes his internal struggle wanting to save her, but facing this crushing financial reality, thinking about how frugal she always was, his responsibility for his brothers. It's a terrible choice for him to face.
He pauses, right? Thinking about the money, even imagining his mom waking up angry he'd spent so much. It shows how deep her lessons about survival went even then. But in the end, he tells them, save her.
Visiting her in the hospital, seeing her bandaged up, the stitches, the physical reality of that violence.
But this section, and really the material overall, it kind of culminates in that amazing story of his mother waking up.
Yeah.
And her very first words, according to the text, are telling him to look on the bright side.
Because now, with her face bandaged, he's officially the best-looking person in the family.
And they laugh through the tears. It just perfectly captures their unique bond, her incredible spirit, and that philosophy she drilled into him. Let the pain sharpen you, don't be bitter. It's such a powerful moment of resilience, straight from the source.
It really is. Just amazing strength.
A testament to her and to their relationship.
So this deep dive into the material you shared, it's shown us the incredible layers of difficulty growing up under apartheid, the complex path of figuring out a mixed identity when the world demanded clear boxes, and just the extraordinary strength and influence of his mother.
Yeah, and we've seen the harsh realities of poverty and crime in the townships, how survival could really blur those lines between, civilian and criminal, and how distance, physical or social, could make it easier to forget the human cost.
And through it all, the material really highlights the role of humor and resilience, not just as ways to cope, but as actual tools for understanding and connecting, even when facing unbelievable pain. And remember, all these insights come directly from the source material you provided us.
There's just so much in this story, even in these excerpts.
There really is. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, something that kind of sticks after reading this material. Trevor's realization about seeing the face of the victim with the camera compared to the anonymity of stealing food. It really underscores how easy it is to dehumanize people when they're distant from us physically, socially, economically. So the text kind of makes you wonder, right? In our own lives, when are we maybe taking something from someone or judging someone without really seeing the human being, the face behind it all? How do we, actively try to bridge that distance? Something to think about.